It is without question that we are in the day of the entrepreneur. If you look on any of your social platforms, you see businesses popping up all over the place, and we celebrate that. We applaud that because people are creating lasting legacy for their families. What is interesting, though, is that sometimes it is hard to balance the dynamics of business and family. And so today I have some amazing people joining me. We've got Naomi, Raine, she's back with us, and we have Melissa Best, who's also joining us, both amazing entrepreneurial women in their own rights, and we're going to talk about the family business. So let's go.
I was thinking today about like people specifically with you. I think people think of you like, you're a singer, right? You sing, that's what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking, of course, I know this, right? You're an entrepreneur, right? Like there are so many like different facets and aspects and offshoots of that. Like in order to sing, there's a whole host of other things that I have to do in order to actually do the thing that I actually want to do. And I was just like, for me, like that balance of trying to juggle between all of these different things and still be, both of you, still be mothers. You have your businesses, right? Everybody has businesses. Everybody at the table has businesses. And like, I don't know if people fully understand the cost. Like, it's like, hey, like I see what you're doing, I see what you're producing, but I don't really know the price that's being paid, especially as you try to like balance family and business. It's like, how does that actually work? And I know I'll say this for me, it doesn't always work, you know. And I think and I think people like have this assumption that just because you out there doing the thing, it doesn't mean I'm not taking an L in another area.
It's L.
You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm out here taking L's, but I think for me, all right, here we go already. I think for me, the L's are worth it. You know, and some people would argue that, well, you're sacrificing your family. I don't think for me, I don't feel like I'm sacrificing my family. I think that, okay, I feel like I have a lot of things to say. Because I feel like I don't want to give my children a perspective of fathering that isn't actually real.
That's good.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's exactly it.
Like, I want you to know that I'm here for you, but I also want you to know that my life is not you.
Right.
That's the part that
Don't nobody want to talk about this. Like,
part.
my life is not you. And I think the best thing that, I feel riled up.
Yeah,
I think the best thing that I can offer my children is a balanced perspective that I love you and I'm taking care of you, but I'm also starting this business and I'm still following my dreams and I'm still
in purpose.
I'm still in purpose. Like, that's the example that I want to set for my children. And I think that there is almost this unfair thing, I don't even know what to call it, but this expectation that people put on you, like that you have to choose. Like, it's either your family or your business, it's your family or your purpose. And it's like, no, I'm gonna have all of it, period.
I want my cake.
I want it all.
Don't tell me I can't have cake and not eat it.
I don't even
But
understand
no,
that.
what it means, I'm just gonna say, to have your cake and eat it too does not mean to like have it and eat it. It means to have it, hold it, and also have eaten it.
Okay.
So you cannot,
Never like that.
you cannot have it out here. I actually explain this to you like
did.
every 3 to 6 months. You don't remember, but it's like there's no way that I can eat my cheesecake and also sit here and look at it.
Observe
I have to do one or the other. And so some people want to do that. They want to observe the thing. But here's the thing. I think it takes a strong person to be able to do both. And because most people don't want to pay the cost,
That's part.
right?
That
They
part.
choose one or the other rather than doing the difficult thing of accomplishing both. And I think I was in a lift yesterday with a man that was talking to me about his children and how he's trying to teach them how to work hard, but now he's getting another, he works in healthcare and he's also driving Uber and he's about to open another business because he wants his children to have something. And I started to think and I said, yeah, you know, I think as African American men and women, we want to teach our children how to work hard, right? But I think there's another part of that which says, I need to leave an inheritance for them.
Yeah.
I need to also teach them what it is to inherit something and have something just because of my name and just because of what I was born into.
That's strong.
There is a space in our psyche that needs that, right? I have to learn how to work, but also I have to learn how to just receive because of who I am. And I think in order to do that, you have to build something that your children can have. And I would rather my children have something to call their own or have an inheritance and have a role model from their parents that says, like, we did not just go to work and come home and chill and watch TV and just because we're not just consumers, we are producers and we create and we are contributing to society. That's our bloodline. That is our legacy, and that is what I want you to pass on to my children's children.
Yeah, I think that the concept of balance itself is flawed, because you will never if balance is supposed to be equilibrium and where this is never going to happen. There are going to be moments where it's like this, or even like this, and it's close, but I think I'm juggling. I'm not balancing. I'm juggling. And it's important that I know what's in the air.
Yeah.
What am I holding? Like, we have to be aware of that. And to your point about just building legacy and leaving legacy, I'm not raising a son and two daughters who will only have one option in front of them. I want them to understand that there is a price to purpose, but I don't have to sacrifice my relationships with them to get to that, to get to the end goal. Like, I don't understand why. Okay, so let me break down a bit of my process.
Yeah.
I have one day a week that I do not work. For me, that's Monday. And why? Because I don't have childcare. Because if I did, I probably would work. But that's my time with my family. We have dinner together. My youngest is still home. She's only 2, and so that's we're gonna do ballet. We're gonna do we're playing. We're doing our little arts and crafts. But that's this foundational season that I've set for all of my children. So there was a period in their life where they all had just me by themselves, and I try to recreate that space throughout a week or throughout a month. I'm not giving you 24/7 because my purpose requires more of me. And before I was your mother, I was Mel. Before I was Philip's wife, I was Mel. And while we have purpose as a family, I still have a call for me. I have some things that God put in me that are answers to questions and problems here. And if I don't do those things, then I'm leaving gaps elsewhere. And I feel like in doing what I'm doing, I am teaching them to be an answer. I'm not teaching them to just consume.
Come on.
I want them to produce. I want them to really release everything that's in them. And I think it's a Western culture thing where, like, the children are the center of your universe.
I was just thinking of that just now.
Because they're not the center of my universe.
Well, and
I love them still.
And you create a world for them that isn't going to actually exist.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
Because the idea that somebody is always going to be for me 24 hours, 7 days a week that is not reality. And so I think for me, I think that's what we're seeing in some of this next generation is this idea that somebody is supposed to always be at your beck and call. And when that does not happen, you're not a good friend, you're not a good employer, you're not a good pastor, you're not a good
spouse.
You're not a good spouse, right? Like, you're not good because you don't do everything for me.
I think one of the things that really was highlighted in this conversation is that we've lost the sense of individuality. We have lumped everybody together and have decided that there had to be uniformity instead of unity. There's a difference between the two. And so in uniformity, everything is exactly the same. We look the same, we talk the same, we walk the same, we do everything the same. In unity, there's just agreement, but we might have some differences in how it's actually carried out. And so I think that it is time for us to allow people to raise their families, to live their lives in a way that is beneficial to them, that works for them, without the input of a whole bunch of voices kind of speaking into what it is that they think that they should do.
We created that because we didn't really raise self-sufficient children. Now, I will be honest, like, I think to the point that you just made, I have not quite found that balance, right? Like, I would love to say that there's a day that I don't really do, anything.
in my mind, I want to get there. In reality, it's not there. And so there are some adjustments that knowingly and admittedly I need to make. The adjustment that I will never make, though, is laying down my purpose, laying down my goals, laying down my dream, so that you could feel like you have all of me and that you could feel seen. Like that's never going to happen.
So this is why I think we need to redefine what relationship really is, or what parenting really is, because we have listened to that Western and I think generational, because I don't think it's really just a Western thing, and I don't think it's every generation. I think this is this is the product of an overcorrection, whereas some parents just never came home and it was like a latchkey kid system, and so you felt like you didn't have something, and now you overcorrect, and now it's like I'm gonna dote, and then it's too much. So I think that we need to redefine what that is, how we parent, how we love people, and I couldn't help but think of these children that grow up into a world that doesn't exist, right? Mentally, they're expecting something. I think that breeds a lot of disappointment. I think that breeds a lot of pain, and and false expectations of people that they can never fulfill, but not just people, also God.
Right.
And so I think we're building a spiritually inept group of children when everything end all be all is us. And I am excited because I almost pride myself on raising independent children. They do their laundry.
That's big.
They do it. Is it perfect?
Done well? Yeah.
I don't know.
They gotta start somewhere.
They've been tying their shoes and doing that stuff since they were little, and washing dishes. And mind you, it wasn't always done well. But my thing was like, I want to teach them to be independent and also be interdependent and work together to accomplish certain goals and get things done. And I think that I received some flack from certain mothers and certain parents that was kind of like, why are you doing that? Or almost as if it was like a laziness, or my attention was divided, right? I was too focused on this and not on them. But I think that, again, like you were saying, I think there are adjustments that can be made, but I don't think that's one of them. I think that as parents, our role is to set them up for what life can be, what life should be, in terms of our family. And every family has a different creed, right? And a different thing that they kind of okay, this is what family is about. We should set them up for what we think that is, and the type of life that we want them to live. But I think that it's very hard when you are living up to other people's family creed, right? And not your own. And so I'm super aware. I grew up in a home where my parents were in ministry. That was what they did 24/7, that our lives were laid down to Jesus and for other people. And Jermaine grew up in a home where everything was inward, family. Everybody came over to their house, they came together. And so what we're doing is trying to figure out how to, because there's good in what my family did and there's good in what his family did. And I have to figure out how to merge that, right? And how to do that together so that they value family time and togetherness, but also that they value the mission of the gospel that we're called to, that we're called to lay down our lives for. It's difficult, but
I think we've got to give people the opportunity to figure that out. I think what happens often is we project our own personal value system or our personal, parenting rules onto other people, and we don't give them the opportunity to figure out what works for me in my household. And I think there's a level of judgment and there's a level of even shame that we try to project on people for what they've decided works for their household. And I think that makes it difficult, I think, for people like us even well, am I doing something wrong here? I believe I'm doing the thing that I love to do and the thing that I'm purposed to do, but am I wrong in some way for doing it the way that I'm doing it? I don't think that I would have questioned nearly as much things as I have questioned in my parenting had it not been for the opinions and perspectives of other people. I wasn't questioning it.
Right.
You made me question it because of what was projected. And I think that we've got to let people, and I think that's not just parenting. I think that's marriage. I think that's
everything.
My marriage may not look like your marriage. What works in my marriage may not work in, but
and it ain't got
you
to.
ain't got to.
And
you
it doesn't
don't
have
live with
to.
us.
We're not the same.
Right.
We're not the same. I think at its foundation, relationships are about stewardship. not ownership, if that
That's
makes
good.
sense.
That's good. Yeah.
My job is not to direct my children in a very specific discipline.
Yeah.
My job is to hear from God about the direction they're supposed to take and help steer them towards that, or give them the tools that they need for what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it may not look anything like what I do. And I think I have to be prepared for that. And so how do I prepare for that? How do I prepare for that? Just by doing what I'm supposed to do, like being obedient to my call and being in position to receive instruction. I think where a lot of us stumble is that, to your point, we're trying to maintain a very specific path that does not make sense for everybody. It literally just does not make sense. And if we allow people to just be who they are, to the glory of God, like walk in your specific purpose, because it's not supposed to look like mine, I think a lot of people would be at ease and at peace about the way their family is structured, how their relationships are flowing. You create the rules.
But some of that I think that we're experiencing is like egocentric, right? Because I was watching Inventing Anna, and her mom said something that like was like, oh, that's it right there. She said everyone thinks that children are made through us. She said they pass through us. And I think for me, I think that's what I'm seeing a lot of. It's almost like, hey, if I don't do this, and if I don't dot this I and I don't cross this T, then who are they gonna become? They're gonna become who God designed them and destined them to be. This idea from Inventing Anna like really changed my entire perspective, because I think that we have for too long thought our children to be mini us's, right? Like they were many representations of who we are. And I don't think that they are that at all, although they share DNA. We are stewards over them. They are not our replicas. They're not a duplicate version of me, and they're not my opportunity to do over my life. And I think that when we have put that level of pressure on them, then our lives become about trying to relive life through them. That wasn't what we were called to do. We were called to help them be the best version of themselves that they could possibly be. When you have this like personal like ownership, I think that was the word that you used. When you have this ownership over it, you feel responsible for every single thing that they do. And one of the things that I learned, and I think I've learned this as a pastor, like from counseling so many different people, you can have somebody come in, I literally had this happen, somebody who came in and who said, hey, I'm struggling with how I was raised. And I'm like, okay, let's talk through that. The struggle that they had was that their parents were too perfect.
What?
Hello, somebody. The struggle was that they actually did everything right. And because they did everything right, they innately felt this pressure to be as good as they are. And I cannot fail.
Wow.
The parents never put it on them.
But they just internalized this
They
pressure.
internalized that. And so it's like,
wow.
Well, whose fault was that? Like, I did everything that I was supposed to do, and my child is now struggling because I did everything that I was supposed to do. That thing freed me. Because
you do everything right, and they still gonna need therapy.
that's
Is
a
what you're telling
problem.
me?
Yeah,
All right?
that's a problem.
My job is to make sure they can afford the therapy when they get older. I'm serious about that. Like, same thing. The boy was sick. Which one of the parents sinned? Neither one of the parents sinned. Everything ain't
really
these
good.
parents' fault. Like sometimes
I'll
things
drink to
just
that.
happen. Well, let me join you. Okay. But everything is not the parents' fault, and I think
Or the
what you were
parents'
talking about.
responsibility.
That part too.
Right. Well, I think our responsibility shifts. It's my responsibility to help you walk through.
There it is.
To counsel and to be there when I can, and with what you will disclose to me.
Right.
It is not my responsibility to necessarily police every single little thing and tell you exactly what to do. It's my responsibility to train you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And give you tools. My job is to
That's
equip
the-
you.
that's it.
I want to equip you
Yeah.
to succeed at what you're supposed to succeed
Yeah.
at.
Right.
I'm not trying to steer you down a very specific path that everybody says this is what your child is supposed to do.
It
And
doesn't work.
that
And you don't have to
frees
do
me.
what
Yeah.
I'm doing either. You can do what you want to do.
And what is that?
Because
and let's
in
figure that out.
equipping,
I can give you all of the tools, but you've got to now, you have a responsibility to build something.
Right.
I'm not responsible for what you build. And I think that that's what we have done as parents is, or people try to make us do as parents, is have us be responsible for what my child is building. That's here's the tools, you figure out, here's your blocks, you figure out what you want to build. And I think that we think that we have ownership over the building. I don't have that.
But I think that's because of a pathology. So there's a pathology here. If I think that I'm responsible for every choice and decision, like the outcome, it must be because my parents somehow have done that to me. And now I am no longer just trying to please them. I'm also trying to please people, everybody around me.
For not doing
right,
it.
or I blame them for there's a pathology and a thinking in that says now I have to do this to make up for. And there's a big people pleasing aspect in that. We do care so much about the opinions of people, probably more than we should, because our children are works in progress. We don't get to see the end result. And mind you, I think if we do it right, we will die before our children, and we will never get to see the end result.
That's interesting.
And there's peace in that, in knowing that the Lord can work, turn, fix, heal.
Somebody didn't get peace from that. Somebody is stressed now.
No,
like, wait a minute, I might not see it.
It may not work out.
But
and I won't even know
I
it.
might not see it, but I was never meant to see it. Maybe I was never meant to see it. I was meant to do my part. Maybe they don't belong to me in terms of ownership, but maybe I'm a steward.
Yeah.
And if we
important.
plant an apple tree, that apple tree should outlast us. That thing should outlast us. We should be able to die picking apples. I mean, I don't want to die that way. And it be something that lives through generation to generation to generation. And I don't know if we're comfortable with not seeing the fruit of our labor.
It's embarrassing when you don't see the fruit. I think what happens with parents is it's like, wait, back to your point about the person you were counseling. It's like, well, what did I do wrong? Why you're not producing? And while there is something to that, I don't want to feel like I am pouring into you in vain. You're going to produce something, but not necessarily because of what I'm doing. I think it has to be a combination of me understanding that I've been placed here because God trusts me with this. Like, at the end of the day, what happens to you is God's responsibility, not mine.
Yo, that's
I am stewarding what He gave me.
Yes.
And that really is the extent of my responsibility, to love, to nurture, to equip.
And anything more than that is playing God.
Right.
And that's a whole different beast.
And or idolatry of these little rascals.
That
love them, but you're not gonna run my life. And I want my kids to meet Naomi. And Naomi will be mom.
I said that to my son
Naomi will be
recently.
your mother. I can't fit into the mom, whatever you think a mom should be. Your mom should be Naomi.
Oh, that's so good.
And what you get, and I have to be about, so this past Mother's Day, I think I was super blessed because I realized I was free of a lot of mom guilt because I had done the work in the last year that was necessary for me to figure out who I am, that I can be at peace. I see my kids have given me cards, birthday cards, Mother's Day cards, Christmas cards, and they're always seeing the things in me that I don't see that I give to them. My daughter's, even in this Mother's Day card, it was like, Mommy, thank you for your sacrifice. We appreciate it so much, and we see you. And we like, she's saying, and this is unsolicited, feedback, but she's saying we see it. I've lived for years feeling like I hope they get it. I hope they see. I hope they understand what I'm doing. But she's saying we see it. Apparently, something is happening that I'm not aware of, and all of these bad thoughts in my mind that are telling me you're not doing enough, or you need to do less, in some areas, pull back, and it's actually working. It's happening, and so much of it happened, or I guess I am experiencing a freedom now because I'm seeing it, and I've seen me, and I've done the work to be able to see who I am, that I can actually stand back and be like, okay, I'm gonna trust you, Lord. That doesn't mean next week I'm not gonna be freaking out about something, but it's process and it's growth.
That's so good, because how can you parent well if you don't know you, if you have not seen you? And I think what's happening, which is incorrect, is that we are trying to parent our little people into who we want it to
That's
be.
the thing.
Who we want it to be, who we want to be.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, no, that's actually not the point. And I think that we're raising whole people when they see you as a person. I had this conversation with my son recently. Because now he knows my name, right? Like I'm not just mommy. Isn't that a thing when little children realize that you have a whole name? And they try to get beside themselves. And it's like Melissa. No, he doesn't like that. He's like Melissa. He's looking at me, and I'm like, how can I help you? And he has questions. And so what I've started to doing in conversations with him is saying, you know, when I was your age, I used to think about this. So I can kind of relate to you and I understand what you might be feeling, but I want you to tell me and not just feel like there are consequences attached to what you share, what you don't share because I'm mommy. I'm also Melissa. I'm also a whole person who has lived life before you got here, and I'm gonna continue to live my life in light of the fact that you do exist, but I'm still a person. I'm still an individual, and I didn't think of my parents that way. They were my parents.
Right.
You don't have a life outside of being my parent.
Right.
You're my parent until
Right.
I grow up, and now I can appreciate them as adults. I don't want that for my children. I want my children to understand, like, mommy has a purpose. Mommy's on a mission. What's my purpose? What's my mission? My job is not to give them a formula. I have to be an example. That's
and there's a difference
where I find myself.
And I think to that point, like for me personally, like I had this season, I think, I don't know, I would say like from 14 to like 21, where I was just done with my mother. Like I was completely finished with her. Around 22, something changed, and I think I know what changed. She stopped being my mother, and she started to be a person. And the moment that I started to see her as a person, everything that I was holding against her suddenly fell off.
Wow.
Because I wasn't holding her to this standard.
She was a
that
person
didn't really. She's a person, and so there were things that I was holding against her that was like that was her being a person. Like she was human. She was struggling through stuff. She was trying to make ends meet. She, my mother, she had a 3rd grade education. Like,
wow.
I don't know how, now that I see you as a person, now I honor you because I don't know how you actually accomplished this. But that switch, it would have never happened had I not seen her as a person. And so I think we're doing ourselves a disjustice, an injustice, when we are like, making ourselves to be this superhero or this superhuman, and you're hiding from your children. Right. I don't understand what that is. Now you're just this fictional, character.
So I love what you said, because like parents aren't people; they are somebody that's supposed to provide. Parents are providers, and if your kid only looks at you like a provider, they will always be entitled.
Yes.
And entitlement can play itself out in so many different ways. And I think entitlement limits and hinders relationship. It limits and hinders true growth and learning. You can't learn if you are entitled and everything has to come. You will miss it. And so many people grow up and have to grow up. You know what I'm saying?
To that point, I think I never even, until this very moment, I did not even see it as entitlement. But that's what I was upset about. I was upset because of what I felt like I should have gotten that I did not get. And I never until this day thought of that as, you were entitled. But I think that's exactly what it is. But what's crazy is that came from looking at other people's parents, looking at their relationships, and deciding that is what I should have. And I wasn't entitled to any of that. And they couldn't give that to me. And so I think there are people, this is a whole nother conversation, but I just think that there's a lot of people that are walking around in unforgiveness for something that somebody literally could not give you. They weren't holding it back from you. They couldn't give it because they didn't have it.
But wait, God knew that.
Well, that's the part.
That's the thing.
And so we have an issue with how God does things.
That's who I'm really mad at.
Right? Like, so we're mad at our parents, but truly it's like, well, God, why didn't you put me in a better family? Or why didn't you, create my foundation this way? And God is like, but am I not perfect in how I create? Like, am I not a good creator? Do I not look at what I create and say, it is good? But we're looking at these superficial.
It is bad.
It is bad.
But God knows why He places us where He places us. God knows why He gave me my kids and why I belong to them. I don't fully see it now, but that's something for them to get something from. I got what I needed from my parents even when I was unsatisfied with the process. But I look back now as an adult like, wow, it could not have happened any other way.
Yeah.
There were things that I needed from this
too.
very specific makeup of two people. There were things that I needed, and I got what I needed. And again, like when we kind of pull ourselves out of it, we can see God's hand in it.
Yeah.
I think there's so much in that. And I think what I keep hearing is the reason that people are upset is because of disappointment. There's unmet expectations. But then I look at the way that God does things and the way that he sees things, because I'm wondering how there can be people on two different sides, right, that are against each other, but God loves both of them.
Oh, completely.
How does he do that? It's because he's not looking for a perfect scenario. Right. Whatever we're given, we have to learn how to just trust him and know that he knows best, and he can, like my dad says, he can unscramble eggs, or he can just make a really good scrambled egg, you know?
But I think it's also being content with what you don't get, because when you were talking about like that whole idea of being, like, God intentionally gave me the parents that he gave me. But if that is true, then also what I did not get is also a part of his intentionality.
Yep.
Right? And I now, as an adult and as a pastor specifically, I now understand that I wouldn't be the pastor that I am today had they given me the things that I wanted then. I wouldn't be able to identify, I wouldn't be able to counsel the way that I counsel, I wouldn't be able to help the way that I help. Part of the thing that drives me is what I didn't get.
And is that by design or not?
That's by design.
It's by design.
That's it.
You
And
mad? What are you mad for?
Let God be God.
That's the thing.
It's a Joseph. It's really a Joseph.
It's a setup.
It's all a setup.
It is a setup.
And the setup sometimes sucks now.
Right.
You ain't got to like the whole process now. It's sad.
And how many of us actually pause to ask God those questions instead of sitting in our feelings?
Shoot. Wait a minute.
How I feel about it. But when was the last time you said, all
I
right,
ain't
Lord,
asked nothing.
this is the cards you gave me. It's the cards I've been dealt. What was your vision for these cards? Because I can't see it. We don't do that.
Nope.
I'm saying even as parents, like, all right, I have this personality, that personality, that personality. What is it, Lord, that you want out of them while you gave them to me? This is a question I've started asking. I've started asking this question because I see how distinctly different my children are. And I see that has nothing to do with my personality or my husband's personality. I see glimpses of myself in them, but the whole, it's like, oh, you just you.
You is you.
You are just you. But you. And I've started asking God to open my eyes to see beyond whatever has been a standard in my mind. Like, remove this idea of what track I'm supposed to put them on and help me see what is for them.
That's so good.
Because that is parenting to me. The rest of it, your SAT score and all that, God bless you, could take a class for that. Like,
right.
But what are you here to do?
Yeah.
And I may not get the full answer from God, but what God has been telling me, and I could tell you for each child, I know that Nyla is going to be a fierce leader who is not intimidated by everybody else's opinions. What does that look like in a 4-year-old? Lord.
My God. Yeah, my God.
I don't know. Come over one day. Yeah. But God has told me, like, all right, with her, she needs to see a balance of strength and grace. She's gonna need that. Right now, it's this very unrefined version of leadership.
Yeah.
You need to show her that. With my son, it's a different type of leadership. But the primary thing I keep hearing from him is, do not let him subscribe to this world's concept of manhood. That's what I hear resounding whenever I deal with my son. And so I try to be countercultural with him. Or when he says things like, that must be something for the girls because it's pink, and like, feel how you feel about colors and all that. I try to help him see, like, why is it for the girls because it's pink, and like, you can like pink too. It just, and that has nothing to do with sexuality. Like, people gonna take that and do what they want to do with that. But I'm helping him to understand that his masculinity is not about acts.
Yeah.
It's something inward that he needs to walk in. With Ari, she's an artist. it's clear. She's an artist, and I need to allow her to just be creative.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? She's 2, so I don't know. Right now, I'm just let her be her.
Yeah.
But as she gets older, I'm gonna continue to ask God these questions because I don't have the answers, Sway. I just know that I'm here for something.
Yeah. But I think what I liked about everything that you said is you talked about what you show them. This is what they need to see.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about what you needed to put in them.
No.
It's like I need to
What do I
demonstrate
example?
something,
Yeah.
right? And I think, like, just full circle conversation, I think that's the thing that's missing is I think that we think if I'm living my life, that's good. That's good.
Y'all want
That's
some?
where it's at. No, I'm good.
That's good.
I think we think that if I'm doing my own thing, somehow they lack, they suffer.
No.
But me doing what I'm doing is the example that they need to become who they're supposed to become.
I think we always want what we didn't have because I think we recognize that there's somewhat of a, I'm using the curse word, balance in that it balances out some of what we had. I think that a lot of this guilt and stuff, especially that we feel as, I think a lot of it comes from church and a lot of it comes from corporate America and the swing of all of this, right? And so we see CEOs and pastors and leaders and ministers that have regrets, right? Because of, whenever their things stopped, they came home and everybody was bitter and mad.
Yeah.
Or, the kids started to blame God for their
Why were they
life
bitter and
or
mad?
whatever.
What conversations are you not having to prepare
But that's
your
what I'm
family
saying.
for your life?
I don't think it's a balance issue. I think it's you are actually not present in the child's life at all, and the time that you actually spend in their life is not meaningful and not purposeful.
There's communication
So back in the
missing
day,
there.
like you said, folks would leave and not come back for months and months and months. If you were in any position of that was kind of like a dignitary or something, you had to travel. You had to go with businessmen traveling. Like people grow up with parents like that all the time and love their fathers and
look up
love
to
their
and
right.
wanna
So there's
model that.
something in there that's a little off. It's not about balance in terms of everything is equal. It's balance in terms of, I would say, I guess the mindset about work, about family, and I'm using the word, but not in the way that we generally sense it. I think it's an understanding of how to show your kids that you love them, even if you're not there.
It's presence,
Yeah.
but not constant presence.
Yeah.
I think it's intentional presence.
It's quality over quantity.
Absolutely. Those moments matter and will stay with a child. Like, I have jobs that keep me gone for several days at a time, depending on what type of production I'm working on. My kids, they get sad when I'm walking out the door. Oh, I want to come
It's
too.
sad.
Yeah.
They
But
say
it's a
it.
conversation to prepare them. I'm not just like, I see you when I come back, and then when I come back, I'm still not giving them any kind of attention. When I'm with them, I am with them. You cannot find me. When I say I'm giving my family some quality time, my phone is on Do Not Disturb. I'm looking them in their eyes. I'm not trying to talk to them while I'm on my phone. That's not every day. But when it happens, and it's impactful and it matters. I think that that's sufficient. And that's not balance, because it's not even. It might be 2 days out of a 7-day week, but it matters,
But I think that is balance.
and that's enough.
I'm sorry. I think the real definition of balance means that everything actually ends up being
Evens out.
even.
Okay.
Because maybe one day, because here's the thing. You know this, this is my spiel. The Lord said to work 6 days and rest
rest
for one. Some saints want to rest 5 days and work 2. There
don't
is
work
an
like that.
imbalance in that.
Yeah.
Because you only require 1 day of rest.
And then what kind of
there's
work ethic
balance in that.
are you
I
teaching
think
them?
that's where you find balance, because the soul needs to work in order to feel healthy, but we only need 1 day of rest in order to make sure that doesn't get out of balance. And so I think it's more of an equilibrium thing, right? Rather than a measures. Does that make sense? I'm trying to redefine balance, y'all.
I thought that made a lot of sense, but I think that soul needing work, that's the thing that did it for me, because I think that sometimes the reason why people aren't actually as full of joy and proud and happy is because you have not found the purpose for your life.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk to Me, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a single thing, and we will catch you at the next talk.